I'm not sure if I believed I would ever say this sentence. I'm not sure people are putting enough importance on the quarterback. Carolina Panthers this offseason. We are sitting at the end of May, and I think it needs to be said that the whole season rests on Bryce Young's shoulders. We've had so many conversations this offseason, I'm sure many of you had as well, about what the defense needed and how they need edge rushers, or, how are they going to deal without Jadeveon Clowney, or do they have enough corner help, or something like how nice is it going to be that the offensive line is returning every starter? How nice is it that they have a true number one now in their 8th overall pick, Tepper and McMillan? And I'm here to say all of those conversations are contingent upon one thing. Bryce Young being much more the Bryce Young we saw in the second half of last year than the Bryce Young we saw for the first season and a half in the NFL. There is no reason to get excited about really anything on your roster in the NFL if you don't have the quarterback to take advantage of it. There is an unbelievable amount of pressure on Bryce Young. Unbelievable. The Panthers started OTAs today, right? It's the voluntary portion of the offseason. It is a time where Bryce Young, probably for the first time, should be able to run a practice without a coach there on the offensive side of the ball. Right? Rookie year, nobody's going to expect you to it. You're learning as much as anybody. Second year was a new offense. Dave Canales was explaining to everybody, what he expected and what his playbook was going to look like. This year, Dave Canales should darn near be able to stand on the sidelines and make hand signals towards Bryce, and Bryce should be able to run the whole darn thing. And I'm not even saying he should be able to but he probably won't. No, I want him to. I want this offense to be his, because that's the only way any of this is going to work. There's everyone's kind of dodging it. This is the part I'm getting at. There's an article up on ESPN.com right now. It's written by Ben Solak. It is 100 things about the season, right? And there's bold predictions, and there's 10 free agency questions, and 10 this and 10 that, and 10 categories of 10. And every single prediction on the Panthers, he almost removes himself from the Bryce Young conversation. So, for example, his bold prediction was the Panthers will go 9-8, be above 500. It's not bold enough? All right. Well, he doesn't have the bells and buzzers, so no one's spot checking his bold predictions. But he said the Panthers will go 9-8. And then the very next sentence is this. I'm not even sure I actually believe this, as I have my Bryce Young doubts. Really? Really? Then I'm confident the arrow is pointed up in Carolina. All right. Next sentence. If there's anything real in Young's resurgence, the Panthers should be fighting for a wild card spot. Every single big positive anything for the Panthers is qualified by, well, I'm not super confident on Bryce Young, but if Bryce Young is great, that seems to be what everybody's doing. If Bryce Young is this, then they'll take a huge step forward. It insulates them from, if the Panthers don't have a good Bryce Young and they look terrible, then you can say, well, I knew that was a possibility. You can see it in all my qualifiers. Well, no. Everything is high, except for unless Bryce Young does. That is, first of all, a little bit of a cop-out on a bold prediction, right? What team out there, if you say, hey, their quarterback is going to play great, how confident are you in their team? There's very few teams that are like, hey, my quarterback plays great. I don't know. I still think we're going to lose a bunch. No, if your quarterback plays great, for the most part, your team's going to be pretty darn good. And everyone is using that for the Panthers. I'm not sure everything else deserves 100% confidence. Right? I'm not sure there's every other position there is it's good. As long as Bryce is good, it's good. I'm not sure it's there. But I will join in everybody in saying the range of outcomes for the Panthers changes a ton with the play of Bryce. And by this point, 3 years in, I think most would agree that we know kind of what the physical attributes of Bryce Young are, right? He's as much as you want him to. He's not going to get taller. I don't anticipate him like discovering tricep extensions and now he can throw it 10 yards farther. I don't see him. I think he's actually a really good runner. I think he's underrated as a runner as far as shifty and making guys miss. But I don't, he's not going to turn into Lamar Jackson. He's not going to turn into Josh Allen, and you wouldn't want him to. He's a smaller guy. You want to protect himself. But how much he can execute the offense and how much he can raise the level of the guys around him, that's everything for the Panthers. Everything. And think about where we were, not even like last offseason. Think about where we were like week 6.
Yeah, with Andy Dalton starting.
And I mean, barring, like, do people realize, barring a car accident where Andy Dalton hurt his thumb?
Yeah.
I'm like, if in that game, right? Because I'm not saying they never would have made the switch back to Bryce Young, but if in that game Andy Dalton plays well, or even just like average, we may not have gotten Bryce Young back in the game.
Yeah, that was at Denver. Was that following game? And
once Bryce took over, a little bit better. Then by the end of the season, he's having the game of his life in the final game, and running for touchdowns and throwing for touchdowns and doing everything. That's how thin the margin was for Bryce Young. There's a bunch of you out there, you probably won't admit it now, but when I was saying go back to Bryce just to completely confirm that you're out, right? Because I didn't see any point in starting Andy Dalton. I was like, if Bryce Young is healthy, you play Bryce Young because you need to be 100% certain whether you're in or out. There's a whole bunch of you out there that told me you were already 100%. So I don't need to see any more. We know what he is. I don't need to see any more. Again, you've probably deleted those tweets. You've probably hidden them, and you're not going to acknowledge them. But I saw them, and you wrote them. To go from there to now going into this season, every prediction depends on him. Every decision, every prediction depends on that guy. So when we're having off-season conversations, right, the biggest changes, right, the new players, oh, look at all these edge rushers. What I see, Patrick Jones, the incoming edge rusher from Minnesota, 2-year free agent. Mm-hmm. I saw he was quoted saying that he doesn't think they're going to miss Jadeveon Clowney. That's a really fun conversation to have, right? Can a 2-year, very, very reasonable cash edge rusher help replace former number 1 overall pick Jadeveon Clowney? Boy, that's fun. Doesn't matter if Bryce doesn't ball out. It just doesn't. In that article, again, the Ben Solak, ESPN.com article, he references Dave Canales, who he feels is a future Coach of the Year player. He references Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator, who he references as a future head coach in the NFL. He references so much. I have the list of players here in front of me that Solak says he is higher than consensus on. So, like, the consensus evaluators think they're a B. He thinks they're a B+, right? Just whatever it is, he's higher than. Robert Hunt, Xavier Legette, Tetaroa McMillan, Trevon Merrick, Nick Scorton, Prince Uman Mielen, etc. He threw the etc. on there. All of those players, etc., he is higher than the consensus on for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, if you're higher than the consensus on all of those, you must think the Panthers are gonna roll through the division. Except for he's not sold on Bryce Young. He's not sold on the quarterback. Do you know what it reminds me of? Canes fans?
What's that?
Being sold on everything but the goalie, right? It's like, well, that's a big but. That's a big however in the middle of your sentence. If you're not high on the goalie, I'm not sure I care about how great your third pairing of defensemen is if you're not high on the goalie. Oh, you really love what they did in the secondary and free agency? If the quarterback ain't scoring points, I'm not sure I'm all in. You remember at the beginning of Kane's season? Right, they had lost a bunch of guys from the previous year, signed some guys to extensions, kind of got cheaper but different in a bunch of different places. The two players that I heard most needed to just individually improve were Andrei Svechnikov and Martin Necas. Then they traded away Necas. So I guess you could say Bryce Young is the Andrei Svechnikov. Their ceiling goes as high as Bryce Young goes. And in a lot of ways, the Kane ceiling goes as high as Andrei Svechnikov goes. Which, by the way, Svech was great in the first two series of the postseason. They won them both in 5. And then his best game in this series was Game 4. Surprise, surprise. That's the one they won.
Imagine that.
This season will go for the Panthers, I believe, a lot of the same ways, only more obviously than, a winger. It's your quarterback. When he plays well, the Panthers are going to be a much better team. So as much fun and as much as we will talk about every other position, try to make sure we throw in the qualifier. Obviously, it only matters if Bryce Young plays well.